Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
All right, today is the 17th day in the month of October 2023, and I welcome you to the Tuesday edition of Sports Spring on Western Spring Television. My name is NENGI ERNEST. ADEMOLA set to give you all of the updates coming in from the world of sports, all of the headlines making the rounds also in the world of sports. I'm definitely riding solo today, and I will be starting off from the match encounter between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and the Mozambique. That game ended in a 5-goal thriller. And of course, if you want to hear more updates, you do well to stick with us. And after this break, we'll be right back and giving you much more updates and details, and of course, proper analysis of information. We'll be right back. Glad to know you're still sticking with us. Do not forget, this is Sports Spring on Western Spring Television, of course, where you get your highlights, updates, and a detailed analysis of the news making the rounds in the world of sports. And once again, I am Nengi ERNEST ADEMOLA, and thanks for joining me on board this Tuesday morning. Now, off to updates coming in from the world of sports. First and foremost, let's start off with the game between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and Mozambique. Of course, that game went down yesterday. It ended in a 5-goal thriller. And of course, Nigeria's Super Eagles were able to continue their dominance over the Mambas of Mozambique as they secured another 3-2 win in an international friendly game. Now, after playing out a 2-2 draw against Saudi Arabia on Friday, the Nigerian side needed a win to boost the confidence ahead of the FIFA World Cup qualifiers that will start in November. And it was the Mozambique national team that scored the opening goal, but Terry Murphy was on hand to equalize in the 16th minute. Of course, it may interest you to know that Nigeria considered a goal in that match against Mozambique as early as the 6th minute. And of course, Terry Murphy was able to hand over the equalizer to Nigeria in the 16th minute. And Frank Oyeka put Nigeria ahead in the 27th minute before Nantes FC winger Moses Simon made it 3-1 for Nigeria from the penalty spot. Now, the Central African country was able to halve the deficit in the second half despite being a man down as the game ended 3-2. I tell you for sure, in the second half of that game, Mozambique, that's the Mambas of Mozambique, came back, you know, prepared and ready to even equalize with Nigeria. But of course, they were not able to do that at the end of the day as that game ended 3-2 in favor of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. And when next Super Eagles of Nigeria gather, it will be for the 2026 World Cup qualifiers scheduled for November. And recall, we've been talking about the fact that the 2 friendly matches that the Super Eagles of Nigeria were able to take on will stand as seasonal games, will stand as preseason warm-up games when it comes to the World Cup qualifiers, and also for the AFCON, which is slated to start in January. And of course, we cannot say that they did pretty bad, but then definitely we were able to identify the places and the lapses in the Super Eagles squad. And aside from that, we know that Jose Pesero has come out to say he's not really happy as it concerns the performances of the guys from yesterday's game. But we do hope that with this, Jose Pesero has been able to identify the lapses and will definitely close it up before the World Cup qualifiers, which is slated for November. And still giving you updates on the Super Eagles squad. Recall that the match between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and Mozambique, Victor Osimhen was absent in that match. And of course, Kelechi Iheanacho, who was granted off from the camp, was also absent. But then again, we have updates coming in from this angle as it concerns Victor Osimhen. Now, the Super Eagles striker Victor Osimhen is doubtful for Nigeria's 2026 World Cup qualifying games against Lesotho and Zimbabwe in November. That's the update coming in from this angle. It has been reported across all dailies this morning. Now, Osimhen limped off in the 56 minutes during Nigeria's 2-2 draw, and that was against Saudi Arabia last Friday, and has since returned to Naples, where further tests carried out confirmed that he suffered a medium-grade lesion of the biceps femoris on his right thigh. And according to Napoli, the 24-year-old striker has started treatment at the SSCN Konami Training Center. It is expected that Osimhen will be ruled out for at least 3 weeks, for at least 3 of Napoli's next matches. He will be ruled out for at least 3 of Napoli's next matches. However, Sky Sports Italia reveals that the usual recovery time for this sort of injury is typically around 4 to 6 weeks, putting his availability in doubt when the 3-time African champions, as the Super Eagles of Nigeria, host Lesotho's Crocodiles at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in Uyo on November 17th, before traveling away to play Zimbabwe 4 days later. Well, that's the update coming in from Victor Osimhen's angle right there. Of course, in that match against Saudi Arabia, where we got a 2-2 draw, he leaped off in the 56th minute, and currently test has been carried out, and the problem and injury have been identified, and of course he's currently undergoing treatment as we speak. But according to what we have, according to the updates coming in, is the fact that when somebody goes down, when a player goes down with that sort of injury, it takes around 4 to 6 weeks, you know, to be able to recover. So at this point in time, we'd want to reach Victor Osimhen a quick recovery. Let's see how things pans out to be. But do not forget that in November, we stand fourth for the qualifiers for the 2026 World Cup. We'll take on the likes of Zimbabwe and also the Lesotho's Crocodile right there. Well, good luck to the Super Eagles of Nigeria. It's not far anymore. I mean, November is already a year, talking about the 2026 World Cup qualifiers, and we do hope that they will be able to put out their very best when it comes to that. So that's the update rather coming in from the angle. We just talked about the Super Eagles of Nigeria and their match against Mozambique yesterday. 3-2 it ended in favor of the Super Eagles. However, Jose Peseiro is not really glad about the performances of the guys, which means that he has been able to identify some of the lapses and will work on it before the 2026 World Cup qualifiers will kickstart in November. Now, still giving you updates in the world of sports. Some more stories making the rounds in the world of sports. Let's talk about the Paris 2024 Olympics qualifier, which involves the Super Falcons of Nigeria. Last week, I gave updates as it concerns the next opponent for the Super Falcons of Nigeria. They will be playing Ethiopia. And as at this morning, we have a news update coming in from the squad of Ethiopia. Now, the Ethiopia Football Federation has released the list consisting of 25 women's senior national players ahead of their 2024 Olympics qualifying matches against the Super Falcons. Now, the Federation made the release of the squad known on their official X handle on Monday night, which reads 25 players have been called up for the Ethiopian women's national team match against Nigeria in the second round of the Olympics 2024 women's football qualifiers. Ethiopia will host the first encounter on October 25th in Addis Ababa, while the second leg will be held on October 31st in Abuja. It's set to be an interesting one this October. On the 25th, the Super Falcons of Nigeria will travel into Addis Ababa, and of course, that will be the first leg against themselves and Ethiopia. Meanwhile, the second leg will take place right here in Nigeria, October 31st in Abuja. Now, Ethiopia defeated Chad in the first round to stage a clash with the 9-time African champions who were drew by in the first round. And despite being the most successful team in Nigeria, the Super Falcons have been unable to qualify for the Olympics since 2008, but are determined to break the jinx this time around. Remember that Ethiopia hosts the Super Falcons in the first leg of the doubleheader in Addis Ababa on October 25th, while the second leg holds in Abuja on October 31st, 2023. And just like what I have read out to you, the Super Falcons of Nigeria will be looking on breaking the jinx when it comes to the Olympics qualification. Remember, they haven't been able to do this ever since 2008. But this time around, with the kind of squad that we have, with the kind of motivation and inspiration coming in from these players, we do hope that we'll get this one balling and running to qualify for Paris 2024 at the end of the day. Now, moving on and talking about some special bid that has been made by South Africa to host the 2027 Women's World Cup. Let's see about that. Now, the South Africa's quest to host the 2027 Women's World Cup is in serious jeopardy due to the country's recent allegation from the World Anti-Doping Agency, that's WADA. Now, SAFA has sent their bidding documents to FIFA as part of its commitment to host the Women's World Cup in 2027. And while SAFA was asked to put the bid together, the World Anti-Doping Agency released a statement, and I quote, South Africa will not be awarded the right to host regional, continental, and world championships and events organized by major event organizations until sides is reinstated. Now, South Africa's flag will not be flown at regional, continental, and world championship and events organized by major events organizers other than the Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games until SAD is reinstated. Now, WADA, of course, furtherly said that they have confirmed that it has received the formal notification from sides which disputes the allegation of non-compliance and proposed consequences. And it is not looking too good for South Africa as it concerns the bid for them to host the 2027 Women's World Cup, all in the fact that the country has been recently alleged by the World Anti-Doping Agency, and that's WADA. We'll follow this update very closely. We'll keep tabs on it and, of course, give you further details as it concerns it. Now, we've given you 3 stories, of course. This is still the first half of the show, Sports Spring on Western Spring Television. Further stories definitely are on my hand to dish out to you. And this time around, let's get into the local scene and talk about updates coming in from the Nigerian Premier Football League. I recall on the 30th of September, of course, the league started. We're done with match day 1, match day 2, and recently match day 3. And on the table, Bendel Insurance FC of Benin City is standing pretty. Meanwhile, on the bottom of the table, of course, it has been a sway of the pendulum so far, so good. But this particular update coming in from the Nigerian Premier Football League has to do with Aqua United. Now, the update coming from Uyo indicates that the management of Aqua United has decided to relocate their season home games to another venue. Since the completion of the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in Uyo, the Promise Keepers have been playing their home at the venue, their home games rather, at the venue. And the club management on Monday decided that henceforth their home games will be played at the newly renovated Eket Township Stadium. Now, the reason cited is because of the upcoming international games that will be coming up at the stadium starting this weekend. And apart hosting the Spray Eagles for the upcoming 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier in November, the Godswill Akpabio Stadium will also serve as home for Eimba International and Rivers United, who will be campaigning in the African Football League and CAF Confederation Cup, respectively. So we now quite understand the reason why Aqua United, who is playing in the top flight league, that's the Nigerian Premier Football League, would now move their home games to the Eket Township Stadium, because if you talk about the Godswill Akpabio Stadium, it serves as a home ground to many, not just Aqua United. And currently, the African Football League, which is about to start, and the CAF Confederation Cup, not forgetting the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. All these matches, as it concerns Nigeria, are to be hosted by the Godswill Akpabio Stadium. And so they wouldn't want to, you know, spoil the grounds for them, just to keep everywhere neat and in proper maintenance before all of this will kickstart. So there you have it. Updates coming in from the NPFL is the fact that Aqua United has relocated to the Eket Township Stadium for their remaining matches, due to the fact that the Godswill Akpabio Stadium will definitely be hosting the African Football League, the CAF Confederation Cup, and also the 2026 World Cup qualifiers as it concerns Nigeria. Now, moving ahead and getting into the world of unlimited sports as it concerns Nigeria, just like I would usually say, let's talk about the Women's Basketball League. Now, so many people are not aware that we even have Basketball League. Of course, that is why Sports Spring is there for you to bring you updates as it concerns some of the sport. Now, 4 teams, including MFM, Air Warriors, Bielsa Wales, and Nigeria Customs Basketball Clubs, will today begin their campaign for the Zenith Bank Women's Basketball League title at the Indoor Sports Hall of the National Stadium, Surulere, Lagos. Now, to get to the national final, teams in the league fought for qualification to the national final in 2 phases games and 2 zonal playoffs classified as Atlantic and the Savannah conferences. Now, just like we have in the world of NBA, where we have the Western Conference, of course, that is how it is. Our Women's Basketball League is divided into 2 conferences. One is the Atlantic and one is the Savannah Conference. And 4 clubs, MFM Lagos, Air Warriors, Nigeria Customs, and Bielsa Wales, qualified for the national final. And according to the Nigerian Basketball Federation, that's the NBBF, Bielsa Wales and MFM Basketball Club emerged from the Atlantic Conference, while defending champions Air Warriors and Nigeria Customs picked their tickets from the Savannah Conference. And perennial champions First Bank Women Basketball Club, who have been dominating the league over the years, did not qualify for the national final of the league. And pundits have tipped Nigerian Customs, which has not lost any game this year, to win the 2023 Zenith Bank Women's Basketball League. Well, all the best to each and every of the participating team coming in from the Atlantic and the Savannah conferences. There might be upsets this time around, since one of the favorites that has been winning the NBBF Women's Basketball League over the years did not qualify. Although many pundits have been tipping Nigerian Custom, but let's see how things pan out to be. But do not forget that 4 teams, including MFM, Air Warriors, Bielsa Wales, and Nigerian Custom Basketball Club, will today begin their campaign for the Zenith Bank Women's Basketball League title at the Indoor Sports Hall of the National Stadium, Surulere, in Lagos. That's an update coming in from the Women's Basketball League. We wish all of the teams the very best. Now, quickly, before we go on our very first break to bring you highlights coming in from the Euros 2024 qualifiers and, of course, other international friendlies that were concluded yesterday, let's also talk about cricket as it concerns Nigeria. Yesterday, I brought you news about the Yellow Greens of Nigeria being champions of the West African Trophy Tour. We congratulated them yesterday. And, of course, this time around, we have updates coming in from that angle, because we know that the NCF is to expand cricket in West Africa because of the win that the Yellow Greens had at the other time out. Now, the president of the Nigerian Cricket Federation, Uyi Akpata, has vowed that the next edition of the West African Trophy will attract more rewards for participating teams following the success of the first edition in Lagos. And this is according to the Punch report, also reported across all other dailies. Now, Nigeria won the 4th Nation tournament on Sunday at the Tafawa Balewa Cricket Oval with a 17-run win over Rwanda in a thrilling final, after Sierra Leone had also snatched a 6-wicket win from Ghana in the 3rd-place match. Akpata was thrilled by the team's impressive display and described the showdown as a perfect platform to expose the national teams as they prepare for the T20 World Cup qualifiers. So this is just to expand, talking about the expansion of cricket when it comes to the West African Trophy Tour. It was just 4 countries involved: Ghana, Sierra Leone, Rwanda, and also Nigeria. And definitely Nigerian played about 6 games altogether and won each and every one of them. And of course, that makes them the champion of the West African Trophy Tour. But then again, the president of the Nigerian Cricket Federation, Uyi Akpata, has vowed that the next edition of the West African Trophy will attract more rewards when it comes to participating team following the success of the Yellow Greens of Nigeria. Well, we'll wait and see, and we do wish the Yellow Greens of Nigeria all the best, even as they prepare for the T20 World Cup qualifiers. All right, we've given you updates coming in from the first half of the show, starting from the international friendly games between Mozambique and the Super Eagles of Nigeria that ended in a 5-goal thriller yesterday. 3-2 it ended in favor of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. We talked about Victor Osimhen, who will be out for up to 4 or 6 weeks due to injury. And aside from that, we talked about the fact that South Africa's bid to host the 2027 Women's World Cup is currently in jeopardy. We gave you updates as it concerns that. And of course, we gave you updates coming in from the Nigerian Premier Football League, where Aqua United have been relocated to play at the Eke Township Stadium due to the fact that the Godswill Akpabio Stadium will be hosting the African Football League, the CAF Confederation Cup, and also the 2026 World Cup qualifiers for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. And lastly, we concluded with the world of cricket, talking about how it is to be expanded for the next West African Trophy tour due to the success of the Yellow Greens of Nigeria. Of course, we've given you updates coming in for the first half of the show. And right about now, let's go on a quick break to give you highlights coming in from the Euros 2024 qualifiers. And aside from that, also highlights coming in from the Women's Super League. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.